What's up, all you catfish people out there? Welcome to Palmetto Cats Live. It's an awesome Wednesday evening. I hope everyone's had an amazing day. We got another great show for you tonight. I see everybody loading up in chat. Welcome, welcome. Just a little thank you for the Boom Squad members right there at the beginning, just to let you know that I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for your monthly subscription to the channel. Hopefully, after this show, we will have a podcast, the Real Deal Fishing podcast, right after this show. So if you're a Boom Squad member, you'll be able to tune into that live. But tonight we're talking with a friend, Ray Ferguson. He's been on the show several times, or he's been on the show one time and on the podcast one time. And tonight we're talking about catfishing tournaments then and now, how they've progressed over the years, where they got started, and kind of where we're going now. And Ray has a wealth of experience. He's been a professional tournament angler for years. Took a little time off and came back, and he's seen everything there is to see, in my opinion, and from talking with him. And I think he's going to be able to share a lot of awesome information and a little bit of history with us tonight. So before we invite him up, remember, hit that thumbs up. If you're not able to chat right now, it's probably because you're not subscribed. Hit that little subscribe button. And if you'd like to join the Boom Squad, hit that join button down there if you're on a Samsung or Android phone. If you have an Apple phone, you have to go in the description and click on the link, and there's instructions and everything. But without further ado, let me welcome up our guest, Mr. Ray Ferguson. How you doing tonight, Ray?
Pretty good, guys. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Was that an okay introduction? Did I hit most everything?
Well, what really struck me was the instructions on an iPhone. You know,
Yep.
a Samsung, you can just hit the button. That's why I'm Android. I'd get lost in the instructions.
Yeah, it is a little disappointing that YouTube has not figured out a better way for people with the most popular phone on the planet to join a membership. But we're not here to talk about that.
That's right. And a new car coming.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to welcome everybody in chat again. Thank you for coming in. If you have any questions throughout the show, put them up in the comments. And if they're really cool or really awesome questions, then I'll pop them up on screen and we'll ask them. Do want to send a special shout out to my friend Patriot James, Patriot Catfishers of America. If you remember, this was his time slot, and he's taking a little break. So, hey, Patriot James, hope you're doing well, man. We need to have you on the show here soon. All right, so Ray, you have won several tournaments. Haven't you won the World Championship before?
Yes, the World Championship. There's a lot of tournaments. That's there's just so much. It's unbelievable.
Well, tell me about the World Championship. Like, I had never heard of World Championship until I heard you and our friend Casey Nelms talk about it. Like, where does that happen? Like, what is all involved? How do you get involved in the World Championship catfishing tournament?
Okay. In the World Championship, it was Savannah, Tennessee. It's the oldest fishing tournament on record. And it started off with like a couple of commercial fishermen, local, and then it kind of grew from there. There's been many changes to it, a couple of different venues, but it was all in that Pickwick area in Savannah. But it was the tournament. It was the first time, I tell you, the first time I went there, we finished third. And this is out of, I would say, 60 something boats. Right. These are all local, really good fishermen. And I was just lucky enough to get, catch the fish that we had caught. And it was very disappointing because you get burnt out. And this is in July, it's hot. I mean, just blistering hot there. And you just get wore out at the end of the day. And I was just killed. And we got up to the stage and we weighed our fish and we was third. And I looked over and they give away a belt. And I was like, man, if I knew we was giving a belt away, I'd have done something different because it was one of those unique trophies, like you see in NASCAR and stuff. I'd never seen a World Championship belt. I was like, wow. And the cool thing back then was you got the belt for 1 year, and you'd have to bring it back. So it was your belt just for a year. So it wasn't like, oh, I got like the one that's on my wall behind me. They give us them, but you couldn't get those belts.
That's
And
interesting.
I think the one of the news channels, like Discovery or something like that, had done a special on it.
Really?
That whole deal. You'd have to look it up. I don't. But it's it still goes on today. It's
That's
just that
awesome.
there's so many big events everywhere. It's kind of fallen to the side.
Yeah.
They don't promote it like they try, but it's just so much. I mean, the internet. You can go fish every weekend.
So
Somewhere.
how do you get? Can you just enter that tournament, or do you have to
Yeah,
qualify?
you have to enter it. There's no qualifications. We'll see, like Cabela's, you have to qualify to get into
Right.
there. The World Championship's been open for everyone to come out. It was
That's
an
cool.
invitation to be like, if you want to fish against the best of the best, here they are.
Yeah.
You come and all the big guys were there. I mean, every tournament.
And I think that's cool because not everybody can afford to go do these other tournaments to qualify. So really, you're not getting the best of the best. If it's just anybody can enter, then anybody can enter, and
But that's the thing. A lot of guys that are really great fishermen don't fish, don't travel.
right.
But when you bring them and you say, hey, look, I'm gonna pitch you against Phil King. Let's see what you can do. And I'm telling you, there's some people there that has been in that. Well, I'll give you Larry Muse. I think Larry Muse has probably fished it for, I'm guessing, Larry. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I would say he's fished it for 20 years. And
That's okay. I
think
don't think
he has
Larry
one.
watches my show.
Yeah, I think he has one boat. I mean, I think he has one win out of 20 something years, maybe two. But yeah, it takes a long. It's something you just don't walk up and win.
Well, let's get into that. So, what was your first tournament experience that you can remember?
The first tournament, and it really wasn't a tournament. It was just three guys got together and said, "Hey, we're going to have a tournament, and whoever
Like a
we all
type thing."
Yeah, a coffee can. We put up $250, and I was lucky enough to win it. We did it again because they didn't think I was that good, and I beat them again. So, and that's the big head. That's when you're like, oh, I am pretty good. But really, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just lucky. I'm more lucky than anything. And then I moved from Augusta, Georgia to Knoxville, and we kept seeing this catfish tournament and like different like gas stations and stuff like that. Come fish a tournament, and we started. It was Fort Loudon Catfish Club, and we started. And it was a different name at the time, but that's what it was today. And we went out and we practiced and we caught a couple of flatheads. Man, we was on them. We was like 15 pounders in the Tennessee River. So I'm not fishing the Tennessee River. I didn't know what swam in the Tennessee River. So we go up there and we fish, and it's a night tournament, and we catch about 20 pounds of fish. And we're thinking, man, we're going to win this thing. We're going to win it. 5 fish. I think it was 200 and something pounds. And I was thinking, what is these guys doing different than we're doing? And for a year, we got spanked. But we learned a lot. They was fortunate enough, when you fish these tournaments, you make some friends, and they give you little nuggets. They don't tell you everything. You get little.
Well,
we didn't have YouTube.
We'll go ahead and get to that question since I knew you was going to get ahead of me.
Oh, sorry.
So where did you get your information back then, and how did you learn how to get better?
People.
Because you didn't have YouTube.
We didn't have YouTube.
Social media.
No, we didn't have Facebook. We had to talk to each other. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if it was the same way today as it was back then, there'd be a lot of people struggling to catch fish. The great thing about YouTube, it just gives you a whole different. You can find anything on YouTube.
Pretty much.
Anything. I mean, it's just freaking awesome. But that's what we had to do. We had to talk, and we had to watch what they were doing. When you ride by, I'd have a hat turned like this right here. So they thought I was still looking that way, but really I was watching them as I rode by. But there's people that use binoculars. Believe it or not, they use binoculars to see what you was doing.
I don't doubt it one bit.
Oh yeah.
Well,
But
shoot,
that's
we were when we fished with Casey. He said that he would come into the tournament and put his rods in his rod locker or in the cabin of the boat because he didn't want to see people. He didn't want people to see him fishing with the Santee Cooper rig that he had invented and not told anybody about at the time.
all I can tell you is go to a catfish tournament and watch how many people do that.
Mm-hmm.
They all do it. They all hide whatever they're doing different than you are.
And I think that's fair at a tournament where
Yeah.
money, and then after the tournament, you say, oh, yeah, this is what I did. This is what I did. But I know that some of them probably don't even actually do that.
No, they believe it or not, you get more. That's the really cool thing. People think it's about winning. It catfish tournaments aren't about winning, and I guess we need more people to understand it. It's about social gathering and talking to people, telling your experiences for that day. For example, I had a fella. I was going to fish an area, and this was during the tournament. I was going to fish an area, and he was. It would have been close if I'd have pulled in on him. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just keep going.
Right.
I thought he was anchored fishing. He was dragging, and he'd already drug through where I was fishing, but wanted to fish. And he hit an 80 pounder. Like I was literally going there, and he caught that 80 pounder probably 3 or 4 minutes before I pulled up.
Took it out right out from under you.
Yeah, he said, we just got it in the boat, man. And I was like, man, that's wild because you was off the spot. And he said, yeah, we was dragging. I said, dragging? What
is that?
There we go. No.
Thank you, Creole Catfishing for the $4.99. He said that's for his late fee because he was late.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. All right, we had a few comments. A lot of respect for successful tournament anglers to constantly find big fish on new water in such a short amount of time. Yeah, we're going to talk about that actually. All right, next question. So, back when you started tournament fishing for real, how many tournaments would you do a year? Like in the very beginning, like when you first started?
Well, there wasn't that many.
Okay.
You had it was called U.S. Cats. Was the first traveling trail I remember, and they had it broke up into regions, kind of like what the Cabela's does. But they had regions like the southern region, and that's where I stayed. I stayed in the southern, and then we would all get together at the end of the year and fish a classic, and that's when they decided their champion. But we fished like Chickamauga. We fished the Tennessee River. We went down into Georgia some. I'm trying to think we fished the Mississippi River some. So, but we'd had like 5 or 6. So it was doable, Obviously, I wasn't making the money to support you. Your boats were different. Let me put it to you that way.
Hang on, don't get ahead of me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me put it to you this:
5 or 6 tournaments a year because you
didn't
have
5 or 6 tournaments a year. Yeah.
Y'all
and that's not considering now.
Ray and I are friends, so I kind of know that Ray is an unstoppable freight train of information, so he'll just keep going.
Oh yeah, and then you get lost.
Yeah,
but we like, now when I traveling. Now we traveled, but then we still fished that same tournament that I was telling you about,
the World.
So we would, so the Fort Loudon Club. So we would fish 10 tournaments with them, and then 5 traveling.
Okay.
So that's when we really started.
And that's one of my questions. It's like, let me see, where can I find it? It's a little bit down. Like, were there tournament circuits? Because now you have Cabela's, and well, you used to have a lot more, but you got what's the one that
Alex?
Yeah, Ripping Lips are the
Twisted Cats.
Yeah, it was right on the tip of my tongue. And then you got the Alabama guys doing theirs. You got the All American. So what were the circuits like back then?
Well, it was pretty calm. It was really neat because we all stayed together. There wasn't, like, for example, we was talking about the World Championship. Okay, right. For the World Championship tournament this year, there's 2 tournaments on top of it. You got a Cabela's tournament, and then you got the Alton Classic. So
seems like for a, and it's just Kevin talking, but seems like for a tournament as prestigious as the World Championships, they would kind of try to avoid it.
yeah, the thing is you got big payouts, and
Yeah.
all the guys that fish the Cabela's, they're traveling for points. So
Yeah.
we're trying to keep up with the points, and it kind of, there's
So
some
they're
tournaments
trying to
you
win
fish.
their circuit.
Yes, they're trying to win their division.
Gotcha.
So you kind of get locked into a Cabela's, or you get locked into a I can't even think now, Cat Masters.
Yeah.
You get locked into a Cat Masters where you would like to go fish this one tournament, but no, you can't. You got to go. Like this weekend, they're in Santee. Cabela's is a Santee.
Yep, I'll be there.
Yep, and they would rather be. I would personally rather go up to and fish the. I'm trying to think of it. Rising Sun, the Rising Sun tournament. I would say that's 180 boats, and it's going to be a freaking amazing. And nothing taken away from Cabela's. It's just that it's a different event.
Yeah.
The Cabela's people, we all know each other. When we go to the up the Rising Sun, it's just any and everybody. It's just, and everybody wants to catch fish, and
right.
It's just a great event. People come from all over, and it's just amazing. I mean, I had a person chase me down because he thought I was looking for bait, and I was actually looking for fish. And he was like, "Did you find your bait? Did you find it? Because it's right around the corner here." And I'm like, I'm literally talking about, he ran me down on the river to tell me where the bait was. You don't see that in a Cabela's tournament. You don't see that on a Mississippi River tournament. You don't see that. But those people there they're just great people, and that's why we love to go.
Chad said he might be at the Rising Sun Saturday, and if so, I'm gonna live stream the takeoff. That'd be cool.
It is freaking that takeoff. It's liable to be foggy, but that takeoff is unreal to see how those boats leave. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking about live streaming the Cabela's, but I know they do their own, so I don't want to step on any toes or whatever. So
in Cabela's, you don't have a blast off. You have take a trailer, so it's not as much fun.
So when did they go national? Like you kind of just talked about it, but like, was there a region, like a specific region, like the Midwest, that did all the tournaments, or was it always all over the country?
So what happened was U.S. Cats kind of faltered after Cabela started, and Cabela's had started, and then Ken Friedman jumped up and started the Bass Pro Shop. So the Bass Pro Shop kind of stayed in the southern, and they went a little bit north, and Cabela's was just everywhere. Cabela's was all over the place. And U.S. Cats covered the whole country, believe it or not. I mean, like they covered, like there was everybody everywhere. And that's kind of where, I guess, where Cabela started paying a little bit more money. But then Bass Pro Shop really set it off when they started guaranteed $10,000 to win. So when it really kicked off was with Bass Pro Shops and Ken Friedman, because he was the first to guarantee if you showed up, there was one boat, you won $10,000. If you catch a fish, you got to catch a fish. But that's it. It's 10 grand. I actually fished one of his, I think, and it was he used to do hourly tournaments where you fish. And I think I won 10 grand off an hourly tournament.
Wow.
And only weighed in one fish. I fished all day, weighed in one, and won 10 grand. So he used to do some pretty unique stuff. And in that particular tournament, you had a hourly deal. And there was tournaments that we had went to, like I'd done one in Alabama. We won second, fourth, and fifth. So we got paid because that one fish was the winning fish. And so
that makes sense. I mean, you start throwing out money, people are going to come out the woodwork.
Oh yeah. And it was really great people again. I've never really, you really never have any problem out of the catfish industry. I think people get kind of hurt when they don't go out and win, and you see them put on Facebook, they get, they get mad, and
that pocketbook hurts.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Steve
Yeah,
Douglas
trust me,
said,
it does.
"Hey folks, I didn't know you was going to have the pros in here." So who did you look up to, like when you were first starting out? We all kind of look up to somebody when we don't really know what we're doing. Do you have a few names back then that you were looking up to in the professional tournament scene?
I would say Phil King, um, Donnie, and Lonnie Fountain.
Mhm.
Anywhere, anywhere those guys went, they were like they were catching fish. Um, they also
What
put the time on the water.
is that kind of what made you look up to them? Like they always just kind of knew where the fish were and
Yeah, they
always
would. They would.
produced.
Yep, they would work. They worked really hard. See, I was young then, and they were a little bit older than me, and they had fished the areas. They traveled. They was traveling before I was, so they learned, and you learn where to go and where not to go. But it's trial and error, and they've already had it, and so they knew they had a little heads up on us. But still, they were there. Phil King, you won't find a nicer guy. Um,
I've never met Phil.
he is very unique. He is very humble. Um, he just is. He was the first one. One of the first guys sponsored.
See, I
And
knew you would always get ahead of me.
yeah, I know. I'm trying to lead you into it,
There
son.
you go.
I'm
What
trying.
were there sponsored anglers? Go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Phil King.
Because now
Uh,
you see the jerseys, they have all the logos on the monster rod holders, you got Bloodline on yours. Like was that something that was big back then, or was it just like one sponsor or something like that?
yeah. If we had patches, believe it or not, we had patches. We
Patches.
didn't
I
have it.
love
Yeah.
patches.
Yeah. We didn't have all the fancy stuff we have today. And what's funny is I see people all the time wearing them jerseys. They look really cool, but to
Are they
me,
are they comfortable?
no, no, they're not comfortable at all.
As a big guy, I'm like, I
And
don't know. That fabric doesn't look too stretchy on me.
no, it doesn't. And people promote products, and that's basically
Right.
what they're doing.
Right.
You can't look at a guy and say he's all these people's his sponsors, because they're not. They're promoting. They're trying to promote companies, and that's the thing about the catfish industry. We all, and that's everyone is trying to get us to the bass level. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
To where people look and they still say, "You got a catfish tournament? What? I didn't know that." And you caught how many pounds and lost? So, but that's we're getting there. We're getting there. But like I said, if you wanted to fish a tournament and you wanted Donnie, Lonnie, those guys, they were killing us. They'd beat us every day. And we was like, "How are y'all doing? How are you doing?" "We just spend more time on the water than you do." I said, "Okay, I got you." So, but Phil King. There used to be I think it's Tim Haney. He was the
That's
same
that's
way.
just wrong, Jerry. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Spandex bodysuit. Nobody wants
Hey,
to see me or Norway in spandex.
no, no, you don't. Hey, I don't even like wearing the shirt. So,
So you got a few guys you looked up to. You had a few sponsors. So let's talk about. You kind of alluded to it earlier, and I said, "Whoa, wait a second. How was the equipment different back then?" You can talk about boats. Uh, you know, I have an electronics question, but you can talk about that too. Rods. You didn't have the specialized rods. You didn't have Catch the Fever and monster rod holders at first, and you didn't have big Garmin 15-inch screens with live scope or a Pro Cat Easy Cat 26-footer or whatever. So tell me how it was back then.
well, when Ken Freeman got all this, when he was first sponsored, I guess, was Sea Arc. And so he give away some Sea Arc boats and stuff like that. I know um, I'd won one of them. There was a couple of guys, Donnie and them, they had won some. And Sea Arc was really good to us. They really took care of us. And then I got to know Steve Henderson and stuff. I think I got his first boat, 24-foot boat from him, and it was It was amazing. You know, if I had a problem, I could pick up the phone and call them. And they don't. Sea Org does not sponsor me
But
at
what do you
all.
have? What do you have before that though? Like we
I
know
had a
what you
little.
got now.
I had a 16-foot John boat, and we put a tub with an aerator in it. And we still Sea Org
And a
wasn't making.
16-foot John boat.
Yes, 16-foot John boat. Then I went to a center console glass boat that was 18 foot, and then I went to a Sea Org. I even used a bass boat once at one time because I could run. You know, I was running 60 miles or 70 miles an hour. I thought I was good. But
Now
and we
that's
just
like
put a tub in it.
last place. That's like
Oh
slow.
yeah, you can't. Now we got 26-foot boats with 300s on them, and I'm trying to get a 350.
People in our club, the Santee Lakes Catfish Club, ask me all the time, Kevin, why don't you fish the tournament? And I got several reasons for it, but the main reason is I can't beat anybody out to the spots.
That's true.
But
Hey,
no, I think if you're doing it like if you're doing it professionally, you have to be able to beat people there.
No.
You don't?
I'm gonna tell you a secret.
Tell me why.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. So,
all right, listen up, guys. We got secrets coming out.
I used to. We would blast off. We all had blast offs. Everybody would run to a place and fish. I would act like I was 25 horse motor with a 16-foot boat with a one of those big Walmart tubs in it.
Mm-hmm.
We was about to sink when we had it full. We'd take on water several times.
But that's back then. I'm talking about now.
Wait. Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead. I got ahead of you.
Yep. So anyway, so we took off and we'd act like something was wrong or we was trying to tie something up to get everybody so they would leave the boat ramp. We would beat them within a mile of the boat ramp, and everybody else would run everywhere, all over the lake trying to catch fish, and we was catching them at the boat ramp. And we would have the tournament won, and then we would just ride around because we guessed on say it took 100 pounds to win it. We'd have 100 pounds and we'd just ride around, talk to people, say, hey, what y'all catching? Nothing. Well, we got about 100 pounds. What? So, but we had a lot of fun.
I'm way off. I just think that I'd like to have a fast boat to get out ahead of everybody.
No, the problem with a fast boat, you run over a lot of fish that you should stop and catch. That's the truth.
Yeah, I can see
now, the reason why I have
stand
a boat,
corrected.
Yep. The reason why I have a boat and the reason why I want the boat is because I don't want you to see what I'm doing. I want to get away from you. There's a guy, Fonzie. That's right. That's now why I have one. Because at the time, nobody was looking at me. They're like, who's this goofy guy in this 16-foot boat with a 25 horse motor? He's no danger to us. And literally, Kevin, we went for a whole year and didn't win a tournament. And then we come back the next year and we figured it out. And we won the first three, went to the fourth one, got second, and then won the next three. So we were unbeatable in that boat. So that's why I said you don't need a big, fast boat. And that's where Cabela's is awesome on this deal. They let us trailer. Mm. That is a huge deal for people.
That's a plus, especially if you
if you feel like you got a disadvantage. Yeah. Yes.
What about the reels? Like, what were you fishing with back then?
Whatever we could pick up. I mean, literally, was spinning reels. We used a Akuma spinning reels with a bait runner on them. We loved it. We let the fish run out there and set the hook, and we were good. We had a lot of fun. And then the circle hook come along.
Yeah, that was my next question.
And that's when we went to open face.
Mm-hmm. So, line was different, or no? Did you fish with heavy line, lighter line back then?
No, we stayed. My braid was out by then. When in my deal, I tell you what, the funny thing was, people said they didn't use braid because it would eat up their eyes on their. And I used the ugly sticks. I used the ugly stick, tiger rod, and I didn't have a problem. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that was ever true. I never had an issue with it, with the braid eating up.
I heard that too, but it seems like it take a long time to do that to me, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that it's happened to. And now you told me once before that the most of the guys were using surf rods.
Yeah. Yep. You'd see people still do that today. You'll see somebody out there with a 10, 12-foot surf rod.
Wow.
What they're doing with it, I don't know, because I'm not going to carry that around with me.
Mm-hmm.
But that may be their lucky rod. It may be, they're doing something different with it. Well as I do, is you change your rod, it changes everything. So
Like
maybe they're
what?
looking. Well, you go to a stiffer rod if you're, suspending. If you're dragging, you got a limper rod.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to have the little bow in it to where you get hung up on a stump, it'll pop it off.
But were people really
like a medium
dragging baits back then, though?
Yeah, you got to think Casey Nelms.
Yeah, but I mean, he was talking about 84, 85 when he started doing it.
Yeah, but
I thought you were doing it like in the 60s. And
here we go. Let me tell you, this is what's funny. I remember as a little kid, and Casey, I guess they was around they was around the I can't think of it. It's not Harry's. We'd go to Harry's. That's where all my family would go, and we'd go fishing. And they would talk about Casey, and I never knew who Casey was back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that guy out there with them rigs just dragging along, catching all the fish.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Ray's got a perfectly edited video of Casey talking about how he invented this rig, and it's yet for the public to see. And
Put it on your channel.
No. That's your video. You need to get it out there. The public needs to see. We need to see Ray Ferguson Outdoors make its debut.
Yep.
We'll talk about that
so
later.
much going on.
I know you're a busy man. So you were, and so electronics were different.
Oh man, don't even talk about that.
That's probably the biggest change, right?
Yes. Okay. So my first was a flasher.
Mm-hmm. I've actually seen one. Yeah.
Yep. Well, it gets better than that. Have you ever seen a paper graph?
I've seen a map.
No, a paper. It literally printed out on the paper.
Really?
Keep it. Yes.
Huh.
I think it was Pinpoint, but there was a couple at Bass Boat Electronics. I'm gonna get him to put them on his page. He's got a couple of them. But yeah, it's things has changed, and then it went from black and white to color. And then it come to your live views, I guess is what it is. Not live. It's the second from what do you call that? Where they just showed the little dots. Dadgummit. You go to 2D, then you went back to the I guess it's a clear view is what they call it, where you can actually see the tree, and then they went to live scopes and side imaging. And that's really changed the game.
Broadknocker said paper graph was my first graph. It was very accurate. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yes. Hey, people swore by them. I think we lose a lot in our electronics today. I think they're not as, I don't think they're as accurate as what they were. Now the side imaging, and I'm saying that's 2D. Your 2D stuff, your side imaging. Once you get that tuned in, that's a game changer. Your live scope. When you get your live scope tuned in, it's a game changer.
So somebody asked in the chat, and I answered for them, but I'll let you go ahead and tell them. And well, first of all, now you have 3 screens on your boat.
Yes,
and you have the live scope as well. So
I have 2 live scopes.
You have 2 live scopes. So tell everybody how much you love live scope.
It's just when you first play with it, you will be confused like I was. The difference with live scope is right now, literally it's happening. You can drop a bait in the water and you can literally see fish swim up to it and look at it. And then they swim off. When we figure out what those guys are, we're going to be in business. But it's really amazing. On your graph, when you get to your regular graph, your 2D stuff, say if you're suspended, you can see fish come up and you'll see an arch right there at your bait. and there was a fish up there looking at it, and now he's gone, or he might have been, or he might be still hanging out. You just you don't know.
Right.
But with the live scope, there's no question.
It's live, like right
It's
now.
live. It's right now. It's happening.
Now
you can literally see it. You could see the fish bite your bait before the rod moves.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Now, there's some people, and I've heard, and this is just hearsay, so it means nothing, but I've heard that there's some tournament talk about banning live scope for tournaments. Now, I don't know if that was in the bass world or if that was in the catfish world. How do you feel about that?
It's just a tool. If they're going to take away live scope, then let's take away it all. Let's take away everything. Take away all your electronics. Live scope doesn't make the fish bite.
True.
That's the deal. None of the sonar stuff's going to help you. They're going to help you, but they're not going to catch the fish for you. I'll put it to you that way. That's the way I believe in it, because I know I can sit there on live scope and watch fish all day. Now, what it does when you catch bait, now that's different. If they banned it for catching bait, you'd see a lot of people not catching bait.
Jerry from Parker Pursuit said crappie tournaments are starting to ban them.
Yeah. You can catch every crappie off a tree. You can literally. I've got guys that go crappie fishing, and they will go scan an area and pick out a big female and catch her. It's amazing.
Like target the actual fish.
Yeah, they go after that one particular female.
Well, I can't afford a live scope, so I'll have to take your word for it. And I'm okay. I think me and electronics, minimal is better for me. As far as on the boat is concerned, like in this office, I have computer and all kinds of different gadgets. I'm good with that. But for some reason on the boat, I don't know. I turn into a dunce on the boat.
It's time on the water. It's time on the water. You keep playing with them, and you'll get better. I didn't have anyone teach me. What got me was I was in a tournament, and I went out with a guy, and he's like, "Man, you got to look for the fish. You got to go look for them, and then catch them." And the first tournament I'd ever won, well, not the first one, but when we moved up to Tennessee, and with that little club, I decided that day I was by myself, and I said, I'm only going to stop when I see fish on my graph. And I rode for 4 hours.
I know some guys that do that now.
Yeah, I'll do it now. I'll ride. If I don't see fish, there's no sense in stopping.
I'm 80, and that's maybe why I should just stay out of the tournaments, because I'm too ADHD for that. I gotta fish.
Yeah.
Like the more time that my line's not in the water, even if I don't catch anything, the more anxiety builds up in my head.
You should go fish with Donnie and Lonnie. Holy smokes, because we all fish together now. They'll be biting their nails. They won't even have any nails. I'll be over there on that graph looking, and they're like, "Hey, we can't catch fish with our rods. We can't catch fish if there ain't any down there. So come on, just hang out, calm down.
Get you something." Lonnie.
Yeah, they're a trip, boy. But I'm breaking them. I'm trying to break them.
So what was the weigh-ins like back then? Like, what was the difference in fish count? And did they practice CPR? Or when did that? I know the answer to that, but when did CPR start?
Well, back in the day, you had like a little portable scale. You bring your fish in. Obviously, we didn't have oxygen. Obviously, we didn't have the live wells we have today. So everybody pretty much had a homemade deal trying to keep fish alive. And we really didn't have a clue on what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we just did the best we could. And that's when, like I said, I was telling you earlier about Sea Ark and all that, those guys come out with huge live wells. And
did you see a lot of dead fish at the weigh-ins, and did they allow it?
No, they never. Fish that died, yes, because we didn't have the right system to keep them alive.
Mm-hmm. And I really wanted you to say that, because that shows how far the sport has come. It's like it used to be. Now you bring a dead fish to a weigh-in, and it's like shameful. Not shameful, but they definitely don't let you weigh it.
Well, the thing is it kind of goes back to the live scope. if you're going to fish tournaments, you got to have the right equipment.
Right.
You've got to be able to keep fish alive. You know, I don't think they should allow anyone that doesn't have oxygen fish any tournament, because that's what's keeping the fish alive. You got to have a good live well to fish a tournament. If you're going to carry fish around, get the best you can get. Or don't fish the tournaments. Catch the fish, take pictures, just like with you guys doing the
YouTube.
I ain't going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But just like YouTube people take pictures of fish and throw them over, throw them back in. That's what you should be doing, not fishing tournaments.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, now I've had some success with homemade stuff before, but it's put together. It's not professional. It's not the best for the fish, and it's a lot of work if you have a homemade deal. I had a homemade cooler where, I'd have to scoop the old water out and put new water in every hour just to keep. Now the fish was healthy, but that was a lot of work.
We still do that.
Now these systems you can wait longer. You can let your tanks do most of the work.
But we still dump when you catch a big fish and he throws up in the live well. That's when the work starts, because you just can't get rid of it. You've got to empty the tub, and you got your live well, and do it now. Because once you lose a fish and you learn, then you just like, oh, it's just, catfishing is tough. It's a lot of work. People think you just go out there and catch fish. It's work.
I tell my wife that all the time. I worked hard today.
Yeah, you work. You do.
She don't get it.
No. Everyone knows Melissa. Me and Melissa and Donnie.
Congratulations on the engagement, by the way. Everybody, Ray Ferguson is engaged to be married.
That's right.
And he wanted to keep it, so he put a ring on it.
That's right. Well, I wanted to put a ring on it. I just couldn't afford it. She did the math on the and I was like, man, I can't afford that right now. I'm trying to get my boat paid off. But she's amazing.
Good woman.
She went with us, and she didn't really want to throw the rods out and stuff like that, or really deal with the rods. So what she did was, the part of what her chores were was to take care of the bait.
You sure chore is the right word?
Chores. Well, that's really what it is. We all have our chores to do. I would drive the boat. She would take care of the bait. Donnie would get rid of the bait, and bait it up and be ready to go. I mean, it was a machine. Is basically what I'm getting at. Everybody had their job.
Yeah, everybody had their place.
Yep, and she was just freaking awesome on it, and that's why we have a lot of success. It's because the people. It's a team. It's really a team.
So, how many fish did y'all weigh in back in the early tournaments? You told me once it was like 5 or more.
5, and then some tournaments was 10. Wow. And then if you like at Santee, when they had the state championship, it was unlimited. You could weigh as many fish as you could catch.
Wow.
That's
like, boom, mind blowing right there.
Oh yeah, and you know what won it? 2-pounders.
2-pounders back then.
Yes, they was catching 100 2-pounders.
Wow.
And I mean, killing it. They was fishing with blood. They'd spank us.
That's interesting. So, but people were allowed. Now, are there any tournament circuits now that allow people to keep the fish they catch, or do they require you to turn them loose?
Everyone's requiring to turn them loose.
Good.
We're catching slack on eating fish. Like if we go out and practice, we'll like cook up a fish, a 10-pound fish. It'll feed 3 or 4 people, and there's people starting to get fussy about that.
Wow.
But that's when you kind of draw a line. God put them on here for us to eat. Is what I feel like.
If you're not doing anything illegal, I mean,
no.
Now I do agree that the tournaments, because there's people watching, you're trying to educate people on CPR and treating the fish with respect. I agree with that. But I mean, if you're not fishing a tournament, you're not breaking the law, and you're practicing responsible harvest.
Yeah.
Who cares? Keep a fish.
That's what I said. Who cares?
You know. So Mark Holburn, and you might remember Mark from the Santee Cooper Big Cat Brawl. He is the MC, the weighmaster. He said that they would bring him in wheelbarrows.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy.
It is. Back in the old days, it was tough. And these guys, look, I seen them out there on Santee Cooper with street lights mounted on their pontoon boat. Where they got the street lights from, I had no idea. But these was literally street lights. I think they took off their road.
You know, somebody who has one is Fishing with the Squirrel. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a street light on his boat.
Oh yeah, he's serious.
Wow. So how are the results posted? Like nowadays, it's instant. You get online, there's live streams. But like, how was it back then? How quickly did work? And I know we're not talking about ancient times like telegraphs, but I mean the 80s, 90s, the information was way harder to get back then.
Yeah, no one knew about it. No, it just pretty much stayed in our group. You pretty much got it. They would post it. I don't even know if, when it first started out, they wasn't putting it online. You know, they would just tally it up and keep up with it. And you pretty much write it down whenever you finished.
And you keep word of mouth or phone calls or
phone calls. But really, you know, anybody you wanted to call, no, anybody you wanted to call was right there with you, so they already knew.
True.
So it wasn't like it was a big deal to go tell someone.
Ryan Bort's Blue Collar Life. He's fishing the Rising Sun tournament. Can you give him any tips?
It depends on who's listening.
We only got 93 people in here. Nobody watches this show, but you turned sideways on me.
I had someone call in. Sorry about that. And it was one of his competitors. One of his competitors was calling me. There is
text Ray after the show.
That's right. We have I would use small baits. I would target 15 to 20 pound fish. There's a lot of them there. And I would drag flats because the water is going to be coming up. So I'd find me a real good flat, stay close to the channel edge, and just drag your heart away.
Catfish Insider had a lot of tournaments. That's right. There was magazines. That information would go in. Pro Cat magazine. Tim Scott ran that one. I wonder if he had any. I should have asked him last week.
Yeah.
Awesome. So definitely now information is a lot easier to get. It's instantaneous. So how many you told us those early tournaments, you're like 5 or 6 people. What's the biggest tournament turnout you've been to? Like the greatest, was it the World Championship or was it like a circuit tournament?
I think it was that online tournament you done. I'm just kidding. No, I would have to say it was Cat Masters, and they were close to 200 boats. It would be between that and Rising Sun. Those were pretty much, and they're still good today. You know, they're still that. They'll be right there at it.
Wow.
So,
let's see. Fields of Water said I fished that stretch where Rising Sun launched 80% of the year. Okay. So he fishes that area all the time. Okay. So up to 200 people. I fished a tournament and won a tournament. I've only fished 3 ever. And it was the Father's Day tournament down here on Santee Cooper. And I won it, but there was only 8 boats. Can you beat that?
I'll beat you with the 3 people.
3 boats?
Yeah.
Like an actual sanctioned tournament, or you guys are just like, hey,
it was just you guys.
Oh, that's right. Me and you. I forgot. Who won that one, by the way? That was debatable who won that one.
Okay. Well,
we'll just call it a tie.
Yeah, I'd go for that. But I'm up for it again.
Yeah.
We would, you know, we usually kept around 8 to 10 boats, normal. Um, and when you went to your regional stuff, when you with U.S. Cats, I think they got up to 80 maybe, but you was pulling people from everywhere.
Right.
So, but Cabela's usually they're in their 100 boat range, at the classics and stuff like that. So, but you're going to meet some super people. Even if you don't go fish the tournament, just go hang out. Get out there and mingle. There's not a guy out there that wouldn't talk to you, and you can learn so much from them.
Who are the big names now, and do you see any up and comers that we need to look out for?
Well,
I mean, other than Ray Ferguson.
No, I'm a has-been. There's so many, there's so many good people. I can't.
Well, just pick a few. We're not saying these are the only ones, but who are some guys that just come right to your mind?
Let's say approachable guys.
Okay.
Approachable guys would be, I would say, Alex Nagy.
Yeah.
He is, he's a good guy. He really tries hard. And he handed it to me in Helena. He's got a $20 bill with my signature on it.
He did pretty good in that tournament.
Oh, yeah. And Melissa, if you see Melissa at a tournament, she's got a lot of knowledge. And women that's in this industry, they're kind of left out. And if you was to sit down,
especially
if you
in the tournament scene,
yes, you get her off to the side and talk to her, and you're a male, she could help you with stuff, technology. You may be having a problem with your depth finder. Donnie and Lonnie,
does it sound inappropriate for me to say we need to borrow your wife down here so she can come teach me how to fish?
No, I would. Hey, and she would go. She really would. But like I said, and she watches and see the mistakes that we make. Mm-hmm. And she's like, afterwards, she's like, this is what you've done wrong. And we know what we done wrong. But then for her to tell us just makes it, that's a team. That's what matters. You've got Doug Smith. Doug Smith's in Ohio. He is he's on it right now. He was up in our seminar and I give him some pointers and he's wearing the fish out right now. I'm not going to tell you. You should have been at the seminar.
Because of you.
That's right. You should have. Well, no, it ain't because of me. It's just that I helped him a little bit, get him, in the right direction. And he tells me every time he sees me, he says, "Man, I appreciate the tip. We're killing it." And I mean, he's hard to beat now. But there's, like I said, there's
a lot.
There's no one. If they have a jersey on, they're going to talk to you, and they will help you. I promise you. And if they don't, track me down, and I'll find out why they didn't help you. Because we all helped each other, and we just need to keep, showing the love. It's not about winning and losing, or where you finish in the points. It's how you leave that tournament professionally, and you make sure you talk to everyone that needs. You might just see a guy that you don't know what's going on in his life, and you might just say, "Hey, man." Tap him on the back. How's your day been going? And he's just happy just that you mentioned, you just tapped him on the back to say, hey.
And I think there is that feeling from non-professional anglers that the guys in the jerseys would be unapproachable just because you haven't tried. But, it's kind of intimidating because you see a lot of other guys in other sports that have, the professional guys, they're too good to talk to you, so I'm glad you said that. Maybe it'll encourage people that come to Catfish Conference, which is next month, by the way, to talk to people and just say, hey, I'm Kevin, and I see that you're a tournament angler. Can you tell me a little bit about such and such?
Well, that's a lot of, you say the conference. you know what Steve Douglas has done with that conference? That's another guy. You can pull on his shirt and he'll tell you anything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And people would think, oh, that's Steve Douglas. I can't talk to him. Steve would tell you different, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I mean, Steve often wonders why people treat him the way that they do because he feels like a regular dude.
Yeah, he is a regular dude.
I'm just a regular dude.
Yeah.
But
he's just like
but
we all have to
people build others up in their head like, oh, this is like the catfish god or whatever. And although he is very accomplished and awesome, he's not that mindset. He's humble and appreciative of those who appreciate him and he'll talk to you, So I'm glad you said that. That's really good.
Yeah, because like Brian with Cat Masters, he's the same way. He's just he's a really busy guy, but if you can get to him, man, he's helped us tremendously. Like I said, there's just so many people that you say, hey, they're successful, or you see a guy that's successful. The first thing I'm gonna tell you is stop. Don't look at him. Look who he's with, because the people that he surrounds himself is where he's getting it.
Well, that's what I tell kids all the time. You are who you surround yourself with.
If one man can't go out there and do this on his own.
That's right.
And you can't do anything if you don't have one person, the main person in charge. And you know who that is. Tell me.
Jesus.
I knew I could get it out of you. But that's, you put that first and try to live your life right. And everybody, it'll happen.
Mm-hmm. People are joking around. So we already talked about that. So all right. So obviously some things transfer over the years. You're always going to need time on the water. You're always going to need to understand fish dynamics and where they go when, when do they go deep and shallow and all that, feeding patterns. But as far as like other things, what did you need then to be competitive as opposed to now? You probably need a lot more to be competitive, to stay consistent and competitive. And what I mean by competitive is to stay up in the points,
It's time on the water. That's it.
Other than that,
I know. Good communication with other anglers.
Okay.
If you say, for example, if you've got a team, and granted, now say you're fishing against me, and I call you up and I say, hey, look, I said, what's the fish doing? If you give me, I don't want to know everything. I just want a little tips on where to look. You could say, hey, I'm catching fish in 30 foot of water. That's all I need to know. Or I'm catching them on the flats. I'm catching them in the mud. I'm catching them in the trees. Wherever, just a little bit of information. I don't want your whole GPS coordinates to your waypoints. I just want to know you're catching them off the rocks. That's all. You give me a little bit of information, and I can put the rest of it together. So that's good information, from your other anglers. And used to be, we pretty much share. We share everything because we all are driving 5, 6, 7 hours, and we want each other to catch fish. So, and this goes back to your bait. I'm catching them on maybe gizzard shad. I may be catching them on chicken. I may be catching them on blueback herring. Yeah, well, I know chicken. So don't say chicken.
A tournament angler, a professional tournament angler, just use the C word.
Yes, chicken works. So if it wasn't for these freaking YouTubers, we'd have never used it. Freaking YouTubers, they changed everything, tournament fishing and all. But yeah, I
love it.
We was somewhere in Kansas, and first time we had ever used chicken. I said, man, they're wearing chicken. This chicken thing, we got to try this. And we was in Kansas somewhere, and I throwed a piece of chicken out and caught a 15, 20 pounder. And I looked around, and we didn't have but 6 rods, and all 6 rods had chicken on it. So we went to wearing them out. But
Yeah. But I like that. I like that, you know,
honesty,
you're going to use what works,
you got to,
and it may not, chicken may not work. Like I hear people, I have a famous chicken video, infamous, I guess, but people comment all the time. Like 2 years later, I'm still answering comments on it. It's like, I tried chicken, it don't work here. Okay,
Can I tell you the secret?
now you've narrowed it down.
Can I tell you the secret?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
There
more
wasn't any.
secrets, guys. More secrets.
There wasn't any fish there. Is why it didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah, it happens. Boy, hey, you hear those guys? We say, well, we was on the fish, but they just would not bite. Put some chicken down there and see what happens.
There you go.
Right, change your bait.
Always have chicken on the boat. I haven't used it. And actually I did Sunday night. We ran out of gills, and that's all I had left. So we put chicken on the rod. We got a hit on it, but nothing hooked up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought it was humorous. That's all.
Oh yeah. Hey, we used to fish with chicken livers. Come on.
There you go. People talking about chicken livers in the comments right now.
There you go.
Chicken liver. Danny Williams said, I catch monsters with chicken liver in Kentucky.
Okay, here's another one. So you got your bluegill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tipped it?
Tipped it with what?
A night crawler.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Take you a bluegill and put you on your hook, and then put your night crawler on it. Watch what happens.
There you go, guys.
It works.
Make sure you get it on video.
That's right. you put some it'll work. I don't know about them glow in the dark ones, but I know the regular night crawlers work.
Ray is up here getting a leg on the new tournament anglers, telling them to use chicken. So I guess, and your answer is your answer, but I guess I was thinking more along the lines of, what do you have to do to stay consistent, like boat maintenance, like you got to think about stuff like that because you're traveling hundreds of miles.
Okay, but that's different. I thought you was talking about fishing. I thought you was talking about staying on the fish.
If you can't fish unless you get there.
Yeah. So to give you an example, I keep a extra lower unit.
Wow.
When I had a Suzuki, so Donnie had a Suzuki. We actually have two boats. Okay. So this is how this works. The reason why we're teammates is I have my own personal boat that I would use. He has his. So if his boat breaks down, he comes and gets my boat and goes, if they'll be ahead of me or behind me or however it works out, but he has access to my boat as well as I do his. So we have two boats. And if his breaks down, we've got to back up.
Is that common, do you think?
I don't know. I never ask. I just know
what we
do.
A lot of work goes in that. Like when I talked to Scott Peavy, he won the Big Cat Brawl this year, and we talked about preparation, and I didn't put everything in that video, but he talked about a lot of different stuff. And one of it was, changing line out on all the rods, changing dull hooks out, sharpening hooks, all kinds of different strategies. And so I think even though it may be different for you and other people, like there's a lot of extra stuff that people really don't think about.
Well, to give you an example, and we'll keep going on this. We've got, so every time I get ready for a tournament, I change all my leader line. I change all my hooks. If I fish back-to-back tournaments, I will not use the same leader line and the same hook. They go away. It doesn't matter if I pay $2 a piece for them; they're gone.
So you don't even sharpen hooks?
No, don't even sharpen them. It's a brand new hook, brand new leader line, and I'll probably cut off 5 foot of my braid just because.
I do that with mono. I cut off if I change it. I cut off the like 1 or 2 foot above the leader every time.
Yeah, that's what I do every time. When I get out there, I make sure all my drags are set. I had a huge fish one time I had it. Remember your 7,000? You know how you got the worm gear? So I backlashed a little. I mean, just a loop, and that loop went around the bottom of the worm gear, and it was 100-pound Power Pro back when Power Pro was 100 pounds plus. You know, it was pretty new, and it was real strong. But he had an ugly stick tiger rod pulled all the way down to the reel seat. And I thought the rod was going to explode, but he broke the line. And that was on Wheeler. And I'd already had a 70 and a 65 in the boat. I literally caught a 70, a 65, and then that fish bit. So it was crazy. And here's the deal with that. So I didn't have enough room for all those fish because the boat wasn't proper live well. So we filled our live well up and had to go run to the weigh in our fish, and then come back. So,
I think we've all learned from you guys. I learned from a mistake. I lost a big fish by not changing out a leader, and I knew I needed to change it.
Yeah.
And now,
setting your drag, you're going to lose something.
Yeah. And being okay with managing the drag while fighting a bigger fish.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't catch many big ones, but when I do, I always have my thumb on that star drag, and I'm sitting there adjusting it because you want the handle to be able to turn, but if that thing takes a run, you better be ready.
Oh yeah.
So, we caught a big gar on Sunday night, and just them teeth on there. Before I even felt it, I'm like, I'm changing that whole thing out. I don't care.
Ryan Casey, you ever met Ryan? Super guy. He's a Sea Art Pro staffer. I was fishing with Ryan Casey. Ryan used a real small hook, and I'm not used to that. And he explained to me why he did it, and it made sense.
Speaking of which, and not to interrupt you, but I caught the fish this past weekend on a little 8-aught Aurora circle hook, smallest hook I got.
That's exactly it. He showed me. He was like, "Look, you don't have to use that big old hook." So we were out fishing, and I'd had a. You could tell when you got a big fish, and I had a real good fish on, and I was putting the pressure to him, and when I done, and where he was using that small hook, I pulled the hook on him, and so I was like, "Man, I ain't doing this no more." So I switched his hook out real quick and put my hook on, and the next fish I caught was in the 70s, and you'd thought, and this man fishes, I would say 5 times a week, every week. He was more excited to see that big fish than I was. That to come up out of that Mississippi River and that tail, I said, "Man, I feel his tail moving." He was like, "Oh no, you got a big fish, and he just it was freaking awesome. It's not about the big fish. I've caught a lot of fish, but I had more fun watching him be excited for me. That's what I guess that's where people miss it. You should be happy for someone.
Oh, absolutely.
And you see these negative comments and stuff, and people put, "Oh, the fish is dry," or "How long did you have to fish out of the water?" You don't know that. Why even say that? Be nice to people and congratulate them. That's a once in a lifetime deal.
Yeah, we don't want to go on a tangent on that, but the world's full of it. That's what everybody wants to do now.
Yeah.
We're running into the second hour, but man, we still got 102 people watching. Let's finish these questions.
Okay.
So nowadays, I know you said you're busy here, but before you got really busy, when you started getting back into it, how many tournaments? You said you told me earlier this year that you did a bunch of tournaments and spent a lot of money traveling.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, because that blew my mind.
Well, like I was telling you earlier, you can fish every weekend, and we were fishing. When we go fishing, I'm going to spend at least $2,500 to go.
Wow. And that's traveling and everything.
That's traveling. You're traveling, and you're going to spend more when you go to Missouri than you do when you go to, say, Nashville, which is only 4 hours. But I don't have many tournaments in my area, so my average pull with a boat is 5 hours. So I'm going 5 hours somewhere. And I think I know I spent probably right at $100,000 fishing. And that's just going and bait and stuff like that. That's not buying a little bit of, buying your tackle, but not buying fishing poles. We have all that stuff. And, but that's, Tackle Bandit, they like us.
Well,
They love.
and then you got gas, hotels.
Oh yeah, gas, hotel, and
all that stuff.
and you could cut it down a little. You could stay in the cheaper hotels, but we usually try to stay in that like a Holiday Inn or somewhere like that where it's, you don't have to worry about getting mugged and stuff like that. But it's,
you can park your boat outside and feel okay.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I've seen that happen. Even at the nice hotels, people come by and steal your stuff. That can happen anywhere. But like I said, it's expensive. Even one of my years ago when I kept up with it, I think I won $40,000 one year fishing, and this is only traveling, five or six tournaments, and it cost us $70,000. So we didn't, it doesn't matter how much of a payout, you never get your money back. You just do it for the fun.
Unless you're getting paid by sponsors to promote. And I think that's where some of it's hopefully going for these guys that provide these tournaments.
The bass people take up so much money, there's really no extra money. And that's I've heard it year after year after year. You're not going to get Garmin, even though I got a whole bunch of money in Garmin. Garmin's they don't care about me. Mm-hmm. They gotta stay with their bass guys, because there's a whole lot more bass guys traveling around fishing than, you go a bass tournament, heck, you'll have to have 200 or 300 boats. And that's at any given weekend anywhere in the United States.
Do you think there's any chance of getting bigger tournaments in Tennessee?
Yeah. You got the Tennessee River Monsters. They've got and I think them and the ACA, they've got the Mega Bucks deal going. And the Mega Bucks is like a $2,500 entry fee, 50 boat tournament. That's where it needs to go, in my opinion. Cut the boats down, put 50 boats in a tournament, big entry fee, fish 4 or 5 of them a year, and get something that's recognizable. People, when you go out there and you say, hey, this guy went out and won $100,000. Well, if you're only fishing 5 tournaments, that's doable.
Yeah.
And out of those 50 boats, not everybody's going to be winners, but it's not ever, you have runs. In other words, you get in a groove, and you may knock off 2 big wins, and then you may not win anything again for the next 2 or 3 years. So you kind of, yeah, it stinks, but you see it all the time. You see people get on these runs where they catch fish, and then the secret's out what they're doing different, and then they kind of fade away.
And a lot of it, I mean, yeah, you have to hone in your skills. You have to be good, but I mean, there's a certain amount of luck that's in it, and I hate to use that L word because people get upset, but luck of the draw. I mean, you could pre-fish, you could have fished this place all your life, and the fish just won't be there. Every place you try, so
it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. We will go to a place and we'll fish, and we will have this one particular lake is in Texas. I think it's Texas, PK. We're on them. I'm talking about we're catching 15 to 20 pound fish everywhere we go. I'll tell you another secret.
So, by the way, Ray, Steve said he's headed to Gunnersville tomorrow. Come on down and fish.
Hey, that sounds like a winner there. But we've got
all of a sudden Ray's not as busy as he was earlier.
Yeah. Hey, well, I mean, look, Steve may need some help.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, heck,
He's gotten stronger, but y'all
yeah.
might catch the state record, and he may need
No,
you.
no. What he wants to do is get me on his diet plan. Is what that rascal's wanting to do. He really don't want to go fishing. He just wants to talk about diet. That's what he wants to talk about, and I need him.
He's done a great job at it, man.
He,
He's
yeah.
he's looking great.
Not only
What's
makes rod holders, but he's got diet and information. What's next?
Well, he's got a couple new products out. He got that. I got his corner T-bars for pontoons. Those are awesome. I got those out, and he's got a knife sharpener too. So,
well, I'm gonna tell you, Steve doesn't realize the people that he reaches, and just like you, and I'm gonna tell all the YouTubers that's listening, it's very important to put out good information and just be friendly, to people. I was at a restaurant in Texas, and I pulled in and I sat down in the restaurant, and I seen this pontoon boat pull up with monster rod holders on it. I was like, yeah, we fixed to get some information, because I didn't have my boat with me, so he didn't know that I was there to fish the tournament. And these fellas come in, and they were just the nicest people you'd meet in your whole entire life. They come back to the lodge with us. They talked about Steve and how he had done all these amazing things. And here we are, we're sitting here and we're all just listening, and we're just getting a kick out of it. And we're like, we didn't say anything. We was like, and then after they told us about all this stuff, I said, hey, would you like to talk to him? I got his phone number right here. And boy, they just sat back and they just didn't want, they was like, Steve Douglas? I said, yeah, we all fished together for years. And I said, he's an awesome guy. He'd love to hear from you. But we did call him, but it was awesome.
he said he's got a new event in the works too.
Oh, here we go. I hope there's no telling with him.
Yeah.
And hey, by the way, your net's working great. The net he gave me.
Yeah, I netted my fish up with that net too, man. Always works great. So you were about to give a secret out.
Oh yeah. So we're at a lake, and we've got old, nasty, stinky bait. Something that you would just the stinky bait that, if you remember, Steve threw out. Oh yeah, that's how bad it was. And we was catching fish on it. So we was like, man, when we put this fresh bait on, it's gonna be just amazing. And guess what happened?
Nothing bit.
Nothing bit. We were, for 2 days we fought nothing, and we was just set, because we just threw the bait out. It was gone. The old nasty stinky bait that they wanted, we threw it away. I was like, I cannot believe it. And you hear about it your whole life. Well, I just take this piece of bait and set it out there for 3 days.
Yeah, I leave the chicken outside in the sun for 14 days, and
yes, I'm telling you, for once in my life, that worked. So don't ever count it out.
Unless it's black. If it's black, throw it out.
I don't even know. I would fish with anything. I would fish with anything. If I'm catching fish on it, it could be purple, and I'm going to use it. So, that's what scared me about the chicken.
Well, as long as you freeze it. Back on the chicken again, my 2 biggest blue cats since I started YouTube have been on old frozen pieces of chicken.
I know people
about little, like a $50 size.
I know people who refreeze. They will thaw out a skipjack, refreeze it, and use it again. So
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
We had a couple comments I want to get to. Mark Colburn, again, the weighmaster, he said he does his best to make weigh-ins a full show and entertainment spectacle for anglers and spectators. We have to draw spectators to grow sponsors and the sport itself.
I agree with him. He does a great job.
And Swamp Donkey does too. And then Mr. Gadget said that is what needs to happen. Talking about limiting the boats. You were talking about the smaller tournaments with the payouts, and limit the number of boats. We need to remember there are other boaters and fishermen, and some tournaments just wipe out and take over the ramps. Yeah, and the bass people are really good at that. I remember the last Santee. Well, there was a coffee can tournament about a month ago, and I didn't participate in it, but I went out and live streamed anyway. And it was like the perfect storm of ramp madness. It was a Saturday, number one, in the summertime. Number two, there was a morning bass tournament ending, and then there was an afternoon tournament starting, and there was a catfishing tournament. So there was 0 parking spots, and it was pandemonium at the ramp, and it just I couldn't believe it. Like it made it unpleasant for a lot of people. But
Well, this is what catfishermen and they need to listen up because I'm fixing to give them another secret.
oh, here we go.
All right,
I hope you got your notebooks out.
you got to keep up with these notes. Bass fishermen and catfishermen don't get along, and the reason why
In
is
general,
in general,
because our local guys are awesome. If any of our
yeah,
local bass fishermen are listening, those guys are great. The people that drive in from the to the tournaments, those guys just don't care who they, because they don't live here.
yeah, we are fishing sometimes the same structure
Mm,
in the same point, and the bass fishermen are like, you got to make yourself approachable.
mm.
If you when the bass fisherman's coming up the bank, all you have to do is holler at him. Say, "Hey, listen, you're good to come past me because I know you want to fish this point. Come on, you're not going to bother me."
Mm-hmm.
And you will be amazed of how much respect they will start giving us. But
I had a guy come up behind me, and I was live streaming like usual, and he said, "Hey, do you mind if I fish through, or I can go around?" I said, "Fish through, man. Thanks for asking. No
yeah,
big deal."
but sometimes we need to because we're there first. So the rule of thumb is if you're there first, it's your spot.
True.
It's a gentleman's agreement. But he needs to get around you. Just tell him to come on around. Show him where your lines are, and you'll be amazed at how much people's attitude changes because they're
go ahead.
Yeah, they're out there just like we are trying to catch fish.
Honestly, I think it's more about how people are raised than anything. Because if you're raised with courtesy, common courtesy goes a long way, and that's why I sin as well. But most times, I try not to put people in groups. Like this group of people does this group of people do, because I've had catfishermen run over my lines.
Oh yeah,
So it's about courtesy and how you were raised. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, I agree with you. Extend the olive branch first.
That's right. You have to, even if it's a catfisherman. Okay, so we have this problem. So you're drifting. You don't cut someone off.
Yeah.
If you're on a drift, you don't cut them off. You fall in behind them. Don't get in front of them. Now, if they're half a mile away, or they're a good distance away, you're going to still cover the area, but the chances of y'all going by the same fish are slim and none. So just give people, don't do something. Think about what you're fixing to do before you do it. That would make it easier.
Don't drift somebody's line.
Yeah. Don't.
Like I've started drifting a line, and I'm going in the direction, and the boat pulls up, not directly behind me, but half a mile ahead of me, and starts fishing the same line. I'm like, you see me going that
right.
That's the line I was going. So
even then,
I don't like.
You got to understand there's limited places to fish. Fish are not everywhere.
Santee Cooper is big.
Yeah, but still, if 20% of the water, remember that fish live in 20% of the water.
Let me be hard-headed on this.
Yeah. No, you can't. I can't allow it because it's not. We got to share. You have to be nice and you have to share.
I know. Mud boats. Yeah. So I have an infamous TikTok video or a short where a group of 6 mud motors cut off the corner of a point I was fishing. It was an accident. I even say it in the video, but they caught a whole propeller full of 30-pound monofilament, demon drag, and everything.
I had a bass boat. We was fishing a creek channel, and we was on the point. And the way you got in, the way into the creek, you had to go in between 2 buoys, and we was right there on the point. And a bass boat guy come through. He never lifted, and he got all my 100-pound braid in his prop. I just let it run.
Daddy Blunt said he's been catching 50, 60, 70 pounders spraying cut bait with Pam cooking spray.
Here we go with the Pam stuff.
I can't find my coffee creamer. I can't find my coffee creamer, and now I'm not going to be able to find Pam cooking spray. Thanks, Daddy Blunt.
WD-40. I've heard of people putting WD-40 on their hooks.
Well, Chris Flores determined that was a farce. All right, three more questions. Well, actually, we already talked about the money. It's different now. How do you feel about the online tournaments now? A lot of us YouTubers, thanks to Chad Fields and Fields of Water, go check him out. But started doing online fishing tournaments, and they're just for fun. Some of them have prizes, some of them have money exchanging hands. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's good for the sport, or do you think it's or what do you think?
I think it's freaking awesome. I think it's. I don't think it's fair to some people. Sometimes because, like, if you're going to fish the Tennessee River versus the James River versus the Mississippi River, there's different fish there, and I would feel like the James River should outfish about just about anything. The Potomac River's, yeah, I'd feel you get the right people that's time on the water, they would be tough to beat on an online tournament.
It's actually happening. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
So Brian B. Catfishing has a River Wars tournament, and they're going on different dates. But the Cooper River, I don't know how I got asked to do this, but my little 10-mile stretch of river is going up against the Ohio. And then
you should. That's not fair. You should smoke them.
I'm going to.
Yeah, you should smoke them.
And then you got I think the James River is going against the Tennessee River. That should be a good matchup.
Oh yeah.
And then the Mississippi River is going against, I forget the other river. It's another big one.
Yeah. People
they'll tell me in chat.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. Different places you go, we'll go to where there's channel cats only, and you're lucky to catch a 10-pound fish. There's lakes that we go. Every lake. This is one thing that I have noticed in all my traveling.
Mississippi versus the Potomac. There you go.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. But what I have noticed, and I like to see what the feedback is on this. I've always, no matter what lake it's been, I've always heard about those fish that swim at the dam and the divers are scared of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in some places that you could almost walk across the water in front of the dam. And they said, well, there was somebody, I wouldn't walk across that because there was a diver one time.
Hey, in Santee Cooper, one famous fisherman said, you don't even need a life jacket. You can just walk across the catfish.
Back in the old days when they had the hatchery, probably you could. There were some areas that below the what is that? Not the sand. Is it the Santee River?
Cooper River.
No. What's the river on the upper lake?
Santee.
Yeah, the Santee. They had a boundary line where you couldn't catfish, correct?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you go up to, there's some falls there. There's a dam, but
no, I was thinking they put it there for, and maybe you can find out. But they had it where there was no fishing allowed, and then they took the ropes away for like spawning or something. And then they took it away where you could fish, and there was people carrying them out of there with wheelbarrows.
Honestly, I've never fished the Santee River.
Yeah, it used to be different when I was young. Yeah. It's kind of filled in now.
Well, even our dam on the Cooper River, you can't fish within 100 yards in the daytime of the dam. And then at night, after sunsets, it's like a half a mile. Like the boundary is a half a mile, which is and so I'm like, what? And I see all these other guys like in the Tennessee and Ohio River, all fishing are like right up on dams. And I'm like, man, you get arrested for that down here. It's crazy.
Oh, no, you just got to wear a life jacket. Hey, they ain't that smart up here. Just put your life jacket on. You'll be all right. Heck, it doesn't matter if you're on a jet ski, as long as you got a life jacket.
Maybe.
I'm waiting to see when them kayakers go up there.
I've seen some big bobbers go under the water.
Oh, yes.
So the online tournaments, you think it's awesome? Do you think you'll ever do one?
Yes, I'd love to do one, but I would have to travel 5 hours to where I could catch some fish to keep up with these guys.
You're on the Tennessee River, man.
Man.
Now,
our stretch of river.
Here's an argument. Okay, we got this river war thing going. It's not really an argument. It's a fun banter, I guess. It's a river tournament, and the Tennessee River is in it. But the Tennessee River stopped being the Tennessee River when they dammed it up.
That's right.
What do you think about that? Is that still count as a river?
I call them river lakes, but I'm a redneck. So when I say a river lake, what I mean by the fish bite off the current. When you put current, then they naturally start biting a lot better. So it's not like the Mississippi. The Mississippi is a continuous flow. The Ohio is kind of the same way. They slow the water down and speed it up.
Oh, so we have two rivers.
That's right. So the Tennessee and Ohio would be good. Your stretch of the river, your stretch of the river is kind of weird because you've got a tidal, and I really and truly feel like you could keep up with the James on your river. We just got to get you.
Heard that.
We got to keep you. Oh yeah, you get.
The problem is, I mean, it's an issue, but you can work around it if you're smart enough. But the biggest issue about our river and why it's hard to fish is we have so much grass.
The grass is a killer.
The grass is like, and you can't even see it. Like you have some, you have the grass you can see floating, but then you have tons of it below the water. And if that current's running, it's just grabbing your line, and you see like heavy action rods just
start bowing over.
Blow, But I think if you get out, in the brackish water and stuff like that. See, I don't fish the brackish water too much. You can
talk about brackish. Don't talk about brackish water. We don't want them to know that. That's another secret.
But yeah, there's some nice fish here, and I think in the right conditions you could compete, and that's why I feel confident that now we got guys coming that have never fished it before, but hopefully they come down early and get some practice on it. But it's just for fun. But I tell them, I've been telling them in this little group chat we got, I said, you guys aren't worried about the Cooper River, the little 10-mile stretch of river that runs through 2 counties, and then you guys have multi-state rivers. If you get beat by the little Cooper, better find a place to hide your head, because Kevin's going to go buck wild.
Oh yeah, it's a good deal. I think you could do it. I wished I lived closer to you, because I tell you, we would hone in on them.
Yeah,
we wouldn't let them beat us.
I'm getting better. I fished that river most of my life for panfish, and then every once in a while we catfish. But now that my goal for 2022 was to really learn the river, and I've been fishing it a lot lately, trying things I've never tried before, learning the side scan to find the structure, not so much fish, but structure, and then trying those areas. So I've had a good time doing it too.
Oh yeah. My biggest thing that if I had to give you some advice, don't ever fish the same spot twice.
Yeah.
Every time you go fishing, go somewhere new.
Yep.
And what you're going to realize, and watch your graph.
I do that when we make videos. For live streams, we kind of go to the spots that we can get to. But yeah, I see what you're saying. That's the best way to learn it, right?
That's the best way to learn. That's what I did. I, never fish the same place twice. Just keep finding something different. Those fish move just like we move, and they'll be there one day and gone the next.
That's right.
And they may not move far, but they're moving. So,
all right, last question of the night, and I thought I had it on here, but I can just ask you. You've been to a lot of tournaments. You've been to a lot of tournaments. You've seen a lot of stuff, but what's the craziest thing you've seen happen at a tournament?
Craziest thing,
like boat sinking, or people getting arguments, fights, somebody got shot.
Man,
crazy.
We, and I'll tell you this, here lately, everybody's getting bigger boats and stuff like that. Anybody out there that's interested in traveling to a new lake, try to get as much information as possible. Like if you was on Santee, you don't want to go out there when the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour on the lower lake. Any lake, you really don't. Try not to push the envelope so much. There's not a fish out there worth dying over. And just really just back up and just have fun. That's the key, is to have fun. But the craziest thing is that we was up in Missouri one day, and my partner, he liked to drink and stuff. I never was like that. But the guys told us,
that's a start to a lot of these stories as well.
Yeah.
They were drinking one night. And...
Yeah, he was there's no telling what he was doing, to be honest with you. But anyway, he got up there, and his name's Greg Peterson. Awesome guy, man. Loved to fish. I mean, just loved it. And he passed away not long ago with a heart attack. But he's wearing them out in heaven, I can promise you.
Amen.
But the guys, we was, it was only 15 boats. It was nothing. And we was in the Lake of the Ozarks is where we were at. And he said, we pulled up, and they said, well, you're late. You're not going to be able to fish. And so, right. Boy, he looked around, and I knew they were kidding, but he didn't. He looked around, and he says, well, I'm going to tell you right now, one of us is going to leave here with a black eye. I was like, well, hey, wait a minute, calm down. Oh, we were, and I was like, he's serious, guys. Y'all got to calm down. But we was back in my heyday when we was really getting after it. I was full of myself, and I thought I was the best thing that there was. And that's a lot of confidence, and you need that, really. You don't need to be, bragging, but you need to have a lot of confidence in knowing you're doing the right thing, in these tournaments, because it all falls on one person, and that's basically you. And but anyway, so the guy, he brought a pistol. He was going to shoot me. And I still poked fun at it.
Because you used chicken?
No, it wasn't, because I was whipping them. I went from a nobody in my little local tournaments to where, like I told you, we won the first 3, got second, and won the next 3, and there was one particular ramp that no one had ever beat me at. That's what's, for years we'd go to a boat ramp and they couldn't beat us, and it was crazy. But he was so mad, he thought we were cheating. Back then, no one used electronics, so we was like one of the first to start really working our electronics and learning them. And I'm gonna tell you, the time frame is when the color come out, when they went from black to white to color, Lowrance, and you could look that up to see how long ago that was. But I was honed in. I rode our lakes. I've sonared the whole lake, and I've sonared probably a lot of the Tennessee River from Knoxville all the way down to the Ohio where it comes in. I can't tell you how many miles I've rode in the years sonar. But it's that's some pretty crazy stuff. Several boats sink. People sinking boats and stuff, doing something silly. We had a couple on Santee. Had one guy run over the dam in Ohio. The Ohio River. Yeah, he run over the dam, and they actually they lost their lives, both of them. But we was in the tournament, and it was like, hey, one of the boats went over the dam, and if you never fished the Ohio, it's like a spillway, so you can just pretty much run over. So I actually floated across the upper lake upside down, left out of Harry's, and turned the boat over, and we floated all the way over in front of the dam. I thought we might end up going over the dam, but we was upside down, floated all the way across, and walked up the bank, and right there on those rocks, and they come picked us up at Harry's.
Wow.
We didn't have a phone or nothing. But yeah, it's there's some crazy stuff.
Well, one of the pieces of advice that I've heard you give a bunch is about drift socks. You want to give that advice now for people who for some reason we're coming to the end of the show and we have more people in here than we did when we have 122 people watching. So
right.
They want to hear what you got to say, man. They're here for you.
All right. Well, drift socks. Basically, what a drift sock is an anchor, and people don't understand that. But when you're in the ocean, they can't throw out an anchor. So what they
Right.
do is that they deploy their socks, which are way larger than what we use, and it's really just to slow the boat down. And so that's what your socks are doing. But what happens is say for example, say your bilge pump quits working, and you're not really paying any attention, and your live well spilling over, and your boat's got a little bit of water in it, and you take over, and all of a sudden you got a wave that comes in the boat. It don't have to be a real windy day. It could be just a normal day, with a little chop. And you notice like, oh man, my bilge pump's not working. Well, you got a wave or two in the boat, and then the first thing you want to do is and the most people want to do. I'm not going to say everyone, but most people would want to turn their boat into the wind instantly, because they don't want water coming in the back.
Right.
And a lot of these sea arcs, you have that, the cutout transom. That's the worst thing to do, is to try to move that boat with them socks down. You got to cut those ropes loose, lose the socks, and don't
Because it
hesitate
takes
to
a
cut.
minute to pull those things in, especially a
Yes,
tournament.
you can't get them in time.
Yeah.
You're going to be upside down or in trouble real quick.
Yeah.
So cut the socks loose. I wouldn't even take the time to untie them. You just take a knife and cut it loose, just like you would an anchor. Cut it loose.
And if you get your Easterland drift sock, they have a float in the top, and you won't lose it.
There you go. So cut it loose, and get rid of it. I keep snaps on mine, quick snaps, so you can pretty much easily and I got a float on top of mine also, just for that case.
And so you have this advice because you know somebody that tried to turn into the wind in that same situation and sunk the boat.
Well,
the drift sock.
When I was floating across the river, the Santee, the upper lake, that's what I had done.
Oh,
I literally,
you did it. Okay.
Yes, but there was another guy, but there's been several people. But I literally, the first thing I thought of was, hey, I got to turn this boat around to keep the water from coming in the back. And as soon as I put it in, all I had to do was put it in gear, and the back of the boat went down. It was that quick, and then we were swamped. And you couldn't get loose. It happened so quick. Same thing happened. I forget what his name was, but he turned over, I think it was a 26-foot glass boat, same way. His bilge pump quit working, and he went to turn the boat into the wind, and when he did, it pulled it down.
Wow.
And it was a 26-foot glass boat, center console. This is no 18-foot boat like I had. And it just the bigger the socks, the more problems you're looking for. So always keep a sharp knife if you're anchored.
Tip.
I've had people with anchors, and what they did was they run up to try to get their anchor loose in the Mississippi River, and they was in a Lund boat, a 20-foot Lund boat. The anchor rope wrapped around the prop, choked the motor down. The boat turned around backwards and actually flipped it over.
That's scary.
But people don't. It's anytime you get on a boat, you got to be ready at all times. Even we get so lax because we're out there, and it's just.
Yeah, I learned my lesson. Not to cut you off, but I was so adamant about fishing out the front of my pontoon that I was anchoring the back of the boat, and I seen it done a lot. They do it in the diversion canal all the time, but I was anchoring it like that in the Cooper, where I'd throw it out the back and anchor out the back. Well, I stopped doing that when my anchor let loose. Like, it popped the zip tie on it. The pressure just got too much. All my rods bowed down, went under the boat, broke every line I had. Trying to get the anchor with the boat flowing. I mean, like, I should have just cut it. I should have just said, nope, cut it. I know a guy that makes awesome anchors. But I sat there, and after I got done, and I was live streaming too. When I got done, I just was like, I'm so stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Now I don't ever anchor the boat backwards anymore.
Well, and you learned something.
Oh, I did.
The cool thing is
almost the hard way.
Yes. Well, you just shared with 123 people, and they're going to tell hopefully 123, and it just keeps moving on. And one day, hopefully, we'll save someone a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I would never go. I'd never go out on the water if my bilge pump didn't work.
Yeah.
Bottom line, don't go. It's not worth it. I'm gonna tell you another thing that'll save you. Where's your life jackets at on your pontoon?
Mm-hmm. It's under the seat right next to me. Actually, my friend Fracture Fix gave me a one that goes around my waist.
There you go.
So that I can wear it all the time.
Guess
Now,
where my life jacket?
No, I've forgotten that it was even there. But I
Guess where?
cleaned out the boat the other day and found it.
So to tell you how easy things get, when you're tournament fishing, you want to have things out of your way. You got to be ready to move around. And that's why I use the boat that I use. It's a Pro Guide, and it's a 26-footer. And if you look it up online, it's a Sea Arc. You've got so much room in the back of the boat to move around. Guess where I put my life jackets?
In the front.
In the front. That would be really hard to get to if I needed them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a 26-foot boat. I'm not going to do anything stupid. So why should I need them, right? That's my thinking, and I'm not literally thinking.
I think the same thing all the time.
Right. So we got, and I say Donnie and Lonnie because Donnie's new name is Crash. We changed his name to Crash. So Crash, him and his brothers coming across the lake, and they take on a wave, just random, take on a wave, and their boat's full of water. And his brother says, "Hey, get the life jackets." He said, "I'm not going up to the front of the boat to get them life jackets," because that's how much water was in the boat.
Wow.
So that we need to make sure you got your life jackets within arm reach of you.
Yeah.
You need to have them on, but at least have them within arm reach.
Yeah, I need to start wearing that one because there's no sense in not to. It's just like a little, like a loose belt around your waist. It stays out of your way.
I think Tennessee's got a pretty good niche. You go up to a boat ramp and they'll say 5 people died from this boat ramp, and all 5 of them didn't have a life jacket on.
Mm.
So, that says something. Pay attention. That's safety is first, and take care of your other anglers. Watch out for people. You just never know. I'm telling you, I've been at Pickwick Lake. It was Kentucky Lake, but it was below Pickwick Dam. And I literally had to pull somebody out of the water because they had fell out of the boat. And if you don't know what Pickwick Dam is, Pickwick, the water could rise within 5 feet within minutes. And so to actually pull somebody out of the water, I was, if you've never done it before, you just I can't even describe it. The feelings that you go through.
My dad has told me stories, but thankfully I haven't had the opportunity to do.
What you think, hey, this person's depending on me, and if I miss them, they may not make it. So it's a lot of pressure. I fished with people that was in the boat. Always another thing is make sure people can swim. I was fishing one time.
If they can't swim, you should make it mandatory they wear a life jacket.
Well, it was funny, back to drinking beer again.
Nothing ever goes wrong with drinking beer.
No, not with drinking beer. So my whole life I've been around people who drink beer, and it never really affected. Yeah, it didn't affect them. Like they were normal. Drinking beer, without drinking beer, they stayed the same.
It ain't those people that we're talking about. We're talking about the overindulgers.
Yes. So we was fishing, and I'm sitting on a throw cushion. And the guy falls over. Well, he falls over on the swift side of the river where it's deep. The bank, you have to crawl up the bank to get out of it. And I'm looking at him. I'm just looking out in the water. I said, what is he doing? He's just, and all of a sudden I see his arm reach up from underneath the water. And he was literally going down. And I flipped that throw cushion out there to him. And you'd have thought that was, he was holding on to $100 bill. That's like Melissa holding on to 100. She wouldn't let it go. Yeah, she wasn't letting it go. So, but it's it was. I've seen some stuff. It's amazing.
Man, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up, man. Ray, it's been an absolute pleasure as always to talk with you. And man, I think people have really enjoyed what you had to say. You know, we had a solid crowd in here tonight, and I just appreciate you sharing knowledge with everybody.
Yeah. Well, anytime they see me, I've got a Facebook page. All they
Now,
got to do is hit me up.
it's usually Melissa they're talking to, though.
Sometimes it's because she types faster than I do,
Yeah, true,
but she'll tell the secrets the same as me. I've been to lakes. A lot of people, they're going to, and I'm telling you, if that fella fishes those flats on that Ohio River next to the river channel,
yeah,
he's going to kill them. He'll be in the money. I can tell you, he may not win it, but he'll place in the money because that's where the fish are going to be caught.
Let me go back and find 337's question so he doesn't get his feelings hurt. One under each seat and benches per person. There's a lot of comments. Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Hey,
Melissa
Melissa
said, "I won't tell us the secrets, Kev."
Hey, one more thing before we go, we need to make this clear to everyone.
Okay.
If you have a blow up, when I say a blow up, a self-deploy life jacket, that does not count as a life jacket.
Really?
No. The only way that counts as a life jacket is if it's on. If it's not on your body, it does not count as a life jacket. And I didn't know that.
I see what you're saying. You're saying.
Yes, it has to be. It has to be on. Like you see the basket.
You're talking about like just a float.
Yeah. You can't use it as a. Okay, if the game warden comes up and checks you, and you got 3 people on the boat, and all your jackets are inflatable, where you pull the cord, and you ain't wearing them, guess what you're fixing to get? A ticket, because those are not life jackets. They're not floatable. They're not floatable devices, is what he told me.
Right.
So if you're wearing them, you're good. But if you're not wearing them, they don't count. And that right there will save people a lot.
Save you some money too.
Yeah, save you some money. Especially when you get down to South Carolina, they love writing tickets in that brackish water.
I thought we weren't talking about that.
Oh, I know, but they do.
All right, well, Ray, again, thank you. People are saying, when's part 2? Lots of great information. So thank you for being on the show. We'll have to have you back again.
I appreciate everything you do for us, because you really help a lot of people, and you really just don't know it. Just like Steve Douglas. Steve does. There's a lot of the YouTube people out there. They're great people, and they are they give a lot of information that we all need.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate the compliment, and I appreciate you. All right, I'm going to say a prayer, and we're going to get out of here.
All righty.
Heavenly Father, I just want to lift you up and thank you for Ray and Melissa, Lord. They're blessed. It's been a blessing in my life since I met them, and I just thank you to Melissa for letting sharing Ray with us tonight, and thank you for Ray. Lord, I just pray that you would bless everybody in here, Lord. Just know that we're all kind and we love everybody, and we're not trying. If we miss comments, we're not trying to be rude. We love everybody, and Lord, that we're just trying to have fun in here. And Lord, I just thank you for all the information you've allowed to be passed on. Lord, there's someone in our community that I want to lift up. Jay Fox Hunter is in the hospital, and Lord, you know what's going on with him. You know that what he needs healing, Lord, and we just pray for that because you said we could. So we pray that you would heal him, that you would get him out of that hospital, Lord. I think it's pneumonia. Lord, I just pray that you would be with the doctors and the nurses and all of the people that have any hands in his care, Lord, that you would bless them all, that you would get him out of there and get him back to his beautiful wife that we met, Lord. He's such a blessing to the community. And Lord, I just pray for everybody listening. I also pray for our country, Lord, that we would come together somehow, some way. I pray that we others that don't have the opportunities that we have, Lord, that they would have those opportunities. We don't take for granted that we're able to talk about fishing. while other people are starving and being at war and all the evils of the world, Lord. So, Lord, with that, I just want to thank you again and give you all the praise, honor, and glory. Until we meet again, Lord, I ask that you keep everybody safe. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, everybody. You know the deal. Until next time, happy fishing.
We'll see you at Catfish Conference.
Yep, come on out October 7th and 8th. Get your tickets now.